why the blues is such a good way to work on this too, right? You can just wail on one note for a bit, just bend that thing. So today's lesson, we're going to be talking about 5 ways to make your guitar playing feel easy. Now, this is one of the biggest issues that I found in my own playing and a lot of people's playing is that they just don't feel like it's easy when they're playing. It's hard for them to relax, and it's hard for them to just let it flow when they're playing guitar. So there's a few different ways that we can address this problem, and we're going to go over that right now. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So first of all, let's talk about relaxing. Okay, that's the main theme of this whole entire lesson is going to be relaxing and finding different issues and making sure that we're relaxed in all those issues. So the first thing is that we want to make sure that we're relaxing our left hand. So I find that so many guitarists are pressing way too hard with their left hand. And it doesn't matter if you're playing a chord or you're playing notes. It doesn't matter if you're in any of those situations. So many people are just pressing way too hard. And this is because basically when you first start playing guitar, it's really hard. You know, you find, oh man, it's really hard to play this C chord or this G chord or whatever. And then at some point, once you learn how to actually play these things the right way, you don't need to try as hard as you are trying, but you still do. And again, this is something that I've done myself. So I want to just give you a quick tip. This is not any new information, but it's still worth repeating. Try when you're playing single notes or when you're playing a chord, try playing the note, putting your finger wherever the note happens to be, and picking. So don't press down at all, just pick. And start pressing down just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, boom, until the note sounds out. So that gives you the exact perfect amount of pressure that you should put on your fingers when you're playing the guitar. And if you end up pressing any more than that, well, guess what? That's actually too much pressure and it's completely unnecessary. So number 2, now that we relaxed our left hand, we got to relax our right hand. And this is a gigantic issue that I see coming up with people all the time, is they're making 2 mistakes. Number 1 is that they're picking way too hard. So I hear people picking like this all the time. Like super duper unbelievably hard picking. And actually that mistake to me is oftentimes caused by a separate mistake, which is either playing unplugged. So if you're playing unplugged, you're not plugged into an amp, well, you're going to struggle to hear yourself. And when you struggle to hear yourself, what do? You pick harder. Or the other problem is that you might be plugged into an amp, but you're not turning your amp up loud enough. So the whole point of the electric guitar actually is so that the amp does the work for you, okay? The amp does the work for you so that your right hand doesn't have to do the work. So crank the freaking amp up, and if you find that you're too loud when you crank the amp up, you don't turn the amp down, play quieter. So now I can play like this. And I'm picking super duper quiet. If I rolled my volume knob off, you would barely be able to hear it unplugged, the volume that I'm picking at. But it sounds great and I feel super relaxed and it feels effortless when I'm playing. So again, these are issues that come up with even very, very experienced players. The pressing down too hard and the picking too hard. If you can address just those 2 things, I mean, you're already going to start sounding at least 2 or 3 times better. Okay, so make sure you're picking nice and light. Make sure you're putting that amp up and make sure you're letting the amp do the work for you. Don't make your right hand do the work. So number 3, one more thing of relaxing is relaxing different parts of your body that hold tension in them when you're playing guitar. So I've noticed that a lot of my students, and including myself, I've struggled with this at times, and every once in a while it creeps back. People do like weird stuff with their face when they're playing guitar, and even if you don't see it, we all know about the guitar face, right? That's the classical thing, the guitar face. You know, doing stuff like this when you're playing and all that. And that can be great, by the way, when you're jamming out live. There's a difference between that and this kind of like, I used to do this with my face. I would like stick my tongue out. And like this all's just like really tight in my face. And then also my jaw would get tight. I'd be clenching my jaw the whole entire time I'm playing. So these things, a lot of times, we don't even notice them when we are playing, but we notice them subconsciously because they just don't let us get into that zone and feel relaxed. So this is something that now that you're aware of it, try to monitor it whenever you're playing and you're practicing. Make sure that there's no tension in your jaw. These muscles here, I mean, they get a lot of work sometimes when you're clenching that jaw. Of course, that's an issue that some people have when they're sleeping too, right? Also, your core, your midsection and your chest. I would find all the time that I'd be like flexing my freaking core when I'm playing. It's like, why do I need to do that? You don't, right? That's just making it more difficult for you to play. So if we can stop these things, we're going to make it easier for us to play. Okay, so now for the next number 4, we're going to jump into a backing track. So let's talk about number 4 is after we've done steps 1, 2, and 3, relax our left hand, relax our right hand, and relax just our entire body so that there's no unnecessary tension and we feel totally relaxed. Now, when it comes to actually soloing, we need to focus on our rhythm, not our notes, okay? Notes is a very big source of stress, at least for me. Oh, I gotta hit the right notes, the right notes, the right notes. Focus on rhythm and grooving with the backing track or band that you're playing with. And on top of that, focus on listening to the backing track or the band you're playing with. So I'm going to give you a little example of some improv over this blues backing track so I can tell you what I'm talking about. So I like to play a 1-note solo over a backing track and see what I can do. So change notes there. So just very little notes, focusing on rhythm. And I'm really listening to the backing track. I'm not just like focusing on my own playing. I'm listening to those chords the guitar is playing. I'm listening to the bass. I'm listening to that hi-hat. I'm listening to the ride cymbal and the drums. Now let myself use some of the pentatonic scale. But I'm still not focusing on that. Okay, so focusing on the rhythm and listening to the band and the backing track. You should be able to listen to the thing that you're playing over just as well as if you weren't playing at all. That's what I like to look at it from, that angle. So if I'm listening to a record and I'm just sitting there chilling, I should be able to listen the same way while I'm actually playing guitar and making these decisions. So The thing that's going to help you the most with that is the last thing we're going to talk about. Number 5 is play less notes. Okay, so if you notice, I was not playing a lot of notes at all in that solo there. So if you just play less, you can listen more. Play less, listen more. So in those spaces, when you stop playing, make sure you're listening. Make sure you're not just thinking about, oh, what's the next thing I'm going to play? Do I sound good? Does everybody like what I'm playing? These kinds of things. Just listen. It's amazing when you listen and you play less, how much more you can relax and how much easier it feels. You stop automatically basically thinking about all these other things that hinder us, like, do I sound good? What does everybody think of me, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of can't think of that stuff when you're more concerned about actually listening. So now I'm going to play a solo. I'm just going to do whatever I want. But my goal now is I'm going to listen a lot. I'm going to focus on my rhythm, and I'm not going to play a lot of notes. So let's see what that sounds like. Now I'm listening. I'm hearing that bass. Why the blues is such a good way to work on this too, right? You can just wail on one note for a bit, just bend that thing. So if you want to learn how to master the guitar fretboard, so in addition to your new relaxation skills for playing guitar, you can know all of the technical skills that you need to know to be able to solo over any song, any chord progression, in any key, find any key all over the whole entire guitar neck, and find any chord that you need to be able to play all over the entire guitar neck. So you're not just limited to your cowboy chords and those basic chords that we all learn right in the beginning. Make sure you head on over to Jamsville.com right now and check out the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course. If you don't know how to find any key all over the entire fretboard or any triad over the entire fretboard, and you don't know all these fundamentals, well, what are you doing? You need to go get the course right now. Also, check the link in the description for my favorite guitar picks, the precision pick from Dan's Guitar Store. These are my absolute favorite picks, and I've started using these basically exclusively. I love that they have this unbelievable grip to them, and they have this really cool beveled edge that cuts right through the guitar strings like a knife through butter. And it just, as soon as I started using these picks, I felt my accuracy go up like 5 to 10% at least, like immediately. It was kind of crazy. So make sure you check out those guitar picks. And on top of that, make sure you check out the Jamsville merch store in the link in the description below for a freaking awesome Jamsville t-shirt like this one. So until next time, as always, listen, learn, and jam.